Hi there, YouTube. Welcome to the Stratosphere Studio. It's Monday night, the 29th of December, in the year of our Lord 2025. Unbelievable. There are times when I think, man, so much more should have happened. And other times when I think, wow, that's amazing. So I guess you get what you get. Let me say that. That looks pretty good, actually. So yeah, I think we're looking good. How about that? My Christmas was fine. Thank you for asking, Roadrunner. It was kind of quiet. My voice is a little off still, but that's mostly just I don't know. Keep a lot of stress up here, I guess. But things have been good. I'm looking forward to getting into back into time of year when people can get things done. There's been a lot of stuff that I've gotten done, although it's all kind of foundational work, not terribly glamorous, but that's kind of where the important stuff is. Yes, I've been singing Christmas carols around the neighborhood. Exactly, that's where I've been. I decided to go up to Dearborn and shout them at the top of my lungs. And a good time was had by all, and by all I mean pretty much nobody. No, I've been doing a lot of basic work, so got some new things, just a couple things to show you. I would like some feedback on some other stuff as well. It's been doing, I've been how do I want to put this? I have a seasoned relationship now with LLMs like Grok and ChatGPT. So I know there's stuff that it's good at, stuff that it's not good at, and generally marginally disappointed. But as a general rule, it's a useful tool as long as you understand its limitations. One of the things that I did over the course of the last week since we spoke last was I sat down and basically explained to ChatGPT, and I still feel so strange about it. It's like I always feel like I have to. I know I'm not talking to anybody. I know it doesn't care whether I'm rude or not. I still feel like, it's just good manners and grammar and stuff have just been part of my life for so long. I just can't just do it. But basically, I sat down and said, "Look, here's the deal, chat. It's important to know your limitations, and here's one of mine. The kind of free assembly of ideas that creates new ideas, and being creative, and and coming up with ideas, and just generally daydreaming and watching movies in your head, is able to generate a lot of creativity, and that's really useful. In fact, that's actually what we're selling in terms of the colonies, this being our pop culture night. But I said what comes with it is a real lack of organization, and it's not something that practice or discipline is going to do much good for me on. I know by now, I'm 67, know myself pretty well by now, and it's not something that I can just do. It's just kind of how my brain is constructed. My desk is always a mess, and it's just kind of a sort of a creative chaos that's useful. So basically, what I said to ChatGPT is, I'm going to give you a lot of stuff, spaghetti at the wall kind of stuff, and I'm going to categorize it in terms of whether I think this is immediate action, short term, midterm, or long term, and I'm going to just spaghetti you with all of this stuff, and then you and I together are going to work this out, and we're going to figure out what. Thank you very much, Dave. It's really kind of. Going to figure out what needs to happen in what order, so that you will ChatGPT will be able to generate an interactive to-do list of things that have to get done. And the only way for me to really organize that is just to throw all of the ideas out there, all of them, and let it help get me organized. So what I hope to get out of that when I'm done with it, probably in the next couple days, is to get like I said, a sort of an interactive thing with check boxes of things that have to get done and the order they need to get done in. So a lot of things seem to me like, oh, I should be working on this, but can't do this until you have this done, and so on. And some of these tasks or skills or goals or whatever require outside help or so on. Don Vickery just asked the question of the night, which I'm about to get to, which is, Bill, do AI-generated characters' mouths follow written prompts or sound prompts better? I will let you be the judge of that, because that is exactly what I've got to show for you tonight. So anyway, what I really want to accomplish with this is have a to-do list that I can work on every day, so that the most immediate and pressing things are knocked off, and I'm not just like, hey, look, a squirrel, just chasing all of these things around that I want to chase. So for example, there was a really strong temptation to do something that looks really, really cool, and some new kind of effect, or maybe some renderings of the space elevator or something like that. But what I've spent the last couple days, well, really the last week doing, is getting the foundational stuff right. I had to get. I'd been working almost exclusively with Lisa's face, just because I have kind of an idea of what I want that to look like. And once I got that absolutely locked in, and this is where ChatGPT was useful, because it could analyze it on a pixel by pixel basis and say there's some haloing here, there's some, but we got Lisa's face locked down, and then I worked on got Jake's face locked down. A lot more surface detail in the skin, and all of those plastic looking renderings that I used to do when I wanted to show something cool, like, the ice planet or whatever, the people, at the, at a habit or something like that. All of those plastic effects have gone, because I had the discipline to go back and do the foundational stuff. So I know how to, the good news is that I don't have to learn this twice. The bad news is I have to learn all of these workflows from scratch, and the technology is changing all the time. But with that said, I didn't know what I didn't know until I didn't know it. And now, hey Hornet, now that I've got this down, I don't have to go through that. For example, after getting Lisa's face and Jake's face locked, now I can do Claire and Will and anybody else very, very quickly. Everybody else very, very quickly. Scott got that workflow down. New tools come online. There's a new kind of a up-res thing called Enhancor, which will up-res skin pores to like 8K. It's designed for photographic print photography things, and adds skin detail. So that really helped a lot in terms of getting rid of that plastic AI sheen. And all of this together has gotten me to the point where now I'm just trying to figure out what cards we're holding as we go into 2026. So before I show you this stuff, let me just give you like the time scales here. By middle of January, so that's 2 weeks from now, I need to have a couple new things to show the three people that I've been talking to about this project. All three of these people are potential founding fathers. I mentioned that that there's like a pre crowdfunding raise that needs to happen in order to have the materials for the crowdfunding, and I need 7 people. I've got one of them already in the bank, and so I need to get 6 more. So I kind of need something that I can just kind of drop a little line out there and say, hey, I've been making real progress here. Take a look at this. So I could use some feedback on that in a minute. But the thing that the thing that really matters in terms of like foundational stuff is, can I do a dramatic scene? Can I do a scene that that doesn't feel like AI slop? Can I actually tell a story with characters, and can I make it believable? Now there is some aspects of this are not completely surmountable just yet in terms of the image quality. It's good and getting better by the day, but what I live in constant fear of is this looking and sounding like AI slop? And so I spent the last week with ChatGPT talking about images. And then it can't actually read a video file, but you can send it still shots, and it can read the audio and stuff. And so I'm just really trying hard to isolate what elements, either conscious or subconscious, makes people look at something and go, "Oh, that's AI." Part of that is the picture quality. It's getting better and better, but when you move your head quickly or character's head quickly, it loses definition, gets a kind of a 4 or 5 frames of like plastic looking. So among the many other things I did besides really nailing the character faces and keeping the detail up, I rendered everything at 4K and then downsized it to 1080 instead of rendering it at 720 and blowing it up to 1080. That seems to help. The most important thing about AI slop is AI acting. I don't want to dump on it. It's miraculous, but it's clearly noticeable. And so last week I showed the scene in the Rover where I did text to video, and I thank you, Lady Jane Waterman. I always liked Tequila Rift. I thought it was the best thing they ever did on Love, Death, and Robots. I think it was the first thing I saw on Love, Death, and Robots, and everything after that's gone downhill. And the last season was just pathetic, and Secret Level's awful too. So last week I took text to video. I got good quality renders of the faces, and I wrote this little scene, and I did text to video. So what that means is I would type in the stage direction. The man looks down. He speaks slowly as if feeling guilty, and he looks up. And then I would render it. I just iterated and iterated and iterated until I found a take that had idiosyncrasies in it, that had like a look or a pause or something like that wasn't just this flat artificial AI read of the line. And I was pretty happy with it. But what I've done in the last several days is I did that same scene again, and this time I used facial motion capture, and I did it on a much higher quality. I previously used the webcam with this as the background, but there's a lot of, my face is only this big in the frame, and there's all this junk in the background. So this time I got the iPhone at 60 frames a second and 4K, and got it close enough to scare me, and that seems to have improved the lip sync quality a lot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you guys both versions, and tell me if you notice a difference, and if you think the second one is, now this is with me acting both roles. I'm not a great actor, so, and a lot of people will probably see me in it the way they did with the Major Mace Mattingly thing. But with that said, I've got 2 scenes to show, and I'd like to know, number one, whether you notice a significant improvement in the second scene in terms of feeling more real, and then secondly, would you buy this second scene if you saw it on TV? I've got the I've got them in a real primitive version of the rover, but I'm not testing that right now. What I'm really testing here, I'm not even really testing the image quality. What I'm testing is the transference of emotion and subtlety. Okay, so that's the goal. So I'm going to run them both here, and I've got them preloaded for a change because, what do you know? I actually had a little time here. So bring both of these guys up. Where are you? Hang on a second. Oh, there you are. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to run them back to back. The first thing you're going to see is text to video. Where the AI is doing the acting. And the second thing you're going to see is the same scene where I acted out both roles and did the voice change. All right, so here, everybody ready? Yeah, I think we're all set. Okay, so here comes the first one, and I'm going to roll right into the second one.
Honey, I'm sorry, I really am, but I don't see any way to get into our own hab until after we get that number 6 wheel replaced. It's just a catastrophe waiting to happen.
I agree.
We're probably gonna have stay in here for another month, maybe 2.
It's not the end of the world, Jake.
Claire is gonna lose her mind.
What's she gonna do? Hitchhike home?
We could just chain her to the roof rack, I guess.
She'll be all right. She just needs some time.
Honey,
Honey, I've got some bad news. I've been thinking about this a lot. We're gonna have to replace that number 6 wheel before we can move into our own hab. It's just a catastrophe waiting to happen. I wish there was a way around it, but I just can't think of one.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That means we're gonna be in here for, I don't know, another month, maybe 2.
It's not the end of the world, Jake.
Claire is gonna lose her mind.
What's she gonna do? Hitchhike home?
I guess we could tie her to the roof rack or something.
She'll be all right. But she just needs a little time.
Okay. Roadrunner thinks the first version was better. Second one's a little overwrought, but it does show the possibilities of extreme moments. Eric Blake says version 1 is Hallmark Christmas movie acting. I'm just trying to scan all this stuff here. Saying people in the first one, the voices sounded better in the first one in terms of that. Well, both Jake and Lisa in the second one are replaced. So he may be a little bit too husky. Asian Hands Lincoln says the voices in the second one sounded like a dub for a foreign movie. The that's interesting. Don Vickery's really on it. I tried to do something about it. I didn't have the audio tools. One of the reasons why the second one sounds a little odd is because there's no room tone. It's not. They're inside this metal thing, and so it's what am I trying to say? There's just too much mic presence. They're both kind of speaking into the mic. Road One thinks version 1 seemed to flow more smoothly. No, we should. It'd be interesting to try it with a better actor or a better scene. I think that's probably it. I think Jake's voice may be too deep. Yeah, it's presence. They both sound like there's a mic right in front of their face. So. Don says he believes the first one more. I have a hard time understanding that, but see, the first one to me sounds really, really, really compressed. Like, well, it is compressed. They have 8 seconds to get that. The first one, the text to video stuff, has 8 seconds maximum runtime for a scene. So if I put in a lot of words in there, he's got to really haul ass through the thing. Fame Name says use AI as assisting tool, but give live actors to perform the roles. Well, live actors means live sets, means paying actors, it means lighting the room, it means costumes, it means props, it means food service, it means all of that stuff. So most of the problems with version 2 just seem to be with the actual performance of it, that Jake is a little overwrought for that scene. There are lots and lots of micro expressions. First one feels more like I'm witnessing the conversation, actually, says Trinity Waters. Now, I suspect what I've done is is that it's overwrought, because to me, there's just no contest between the two in terms of which looks more real to me. The second one looks much more real. I think that's probably due to to a bunch of things. I'm just scanning all these here, trying to process all this stuff. Rishi says the first one sounds better. I honestly, look, I'm not trying to knock anybody, that's why I'm asking for feedback. But I just have a hard time with that, because to me the first one sounds so flat. I suspect it's just that I came in to do the driving video that drives it, and I was probably over emoting because I was trying to figure out what the granularity of the capture is. Oh, it's John Voight's birthday today. So Marisha said, can you explain more in detail what you did on the back end to change the second one? The first one is I go into VO3, I give them a still image of the person. I type in the lines, and I type in stage direction, and then I run it 25, 30 takes, and because every one of them is different, I don't get to I can try to direct it, but it's a dice roll. It's just influencing dice in one direction. So the first one was just me typing in the lines. The second one was me reading the lines. And then it's called a driving video. So the second one was just a big close-up of me looking off camera. And basically trying to, it's recording every frame of what I'm doing. So let's say I had like a 26-second driving video. It'll look at frame 45 of the video. It'll look at my facial expressions. It'll go to frame 45 of the output video. It'll take whatever I'm doing with my eyes and mouth and nose and all that other stuff, map those expressions onto the still image, and then that will be that frame, and then it does it, 24 times a second. I had an earlier version of Jake's voice, wasn't so deep. I went in and deepened it. I think I'm actually liking the first one better. I think it was a little bit too cartoony, but I think the general consensus is that it was overacted and kind of inappropriate for Jake, which is legitimate criticism. So I'm gonna run them one more time just so that you can see the difference again after I explained to you what I did. And mostly I want to look at them again one more time. So we'll just run them one more time, and then we'll talk about some other stuff and we'll move on. But the big question is, does it look like? By the way, I put music underneath the second one. I originally put ventilation sounds under there, and on reflection, I think that music is actually hurting us, and having just mechanical noise and sound of things happening outside there. That's sound design issue. I couldn't even get the voices to sound like further away. I need to look into something where there's some presets, but that's basically it. Look, sorry. David Sapasnik says, Bill, remember not to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. By the time you get this done, for the most part, AI advances will allow improvements. You'll always be a step behind. Yes, but the question is, and thank you, but the question is, does it play like a scene? Does it play like a scene, or does it play like that AI slop where they're interviewing somebody on the street and all of that? So that's what I was trying to get. Can you actually make a scene out of this? So anyway, let me do it one more time, and then we'll move on. All right, here we go. One more time. So this is the first one again, and then the second one again.
Honey, I'm sorry, I really am, but I don't see any way to get into our own hab until after we get that number 6 wheel replaced. It's just a catastrophe waiting to happen.
I agree.
We're probably gonna have staying here for another month, maybe 2.
It's not the end of the world, Jake.
Claire is gonna lose her mind.
What's she gonna do? Hitchhike home?
We could just chain her to the roof rack, I guess.
She'll be all right. She just needs some time.
Honey, I'm sorry, I really am.
Honey, I've got some bad news. I've been thinking about this a lot. We're gonna have to replace that number 6 wheel before we can move into our own hab. It's just a catastrophe waiting to happen. I wish there was a way around it, but I just can't think of one.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That means we're gonna be in here for, I don't know, another month, maybe 2.
It's not the end of the world, Jake.
Claire is gonna lose her mind.
What's she gonna do? Hitchhike home?
I guess we could tie her to the roof rack or something.
She'll be all right. But she just needs a little time.
Yeah, Marisha says, I think people are critiquing the audio quality, not the performance quality. And the second one, the volume echo balance as opposed to the acting. I just think it sounds too studio. See, this is the key point Trinity Waters brings up. In the first one, their faces don't move enough between their lines. I'm so glad I saw this comment. Grebler, Grelbr. It's little things like when she says hitchhike home, she glances to the left. Yes, that's exactly, precisely what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So I think here's what I'll probably do. Based on this feedback, and because I've just got the stuff at hand, I'm gonna do this scene one more time. I'm gonna put it in a better rover. I'm gonna get better lights. I'm gonna replace Jake's voice with something not quite so low, and then I've got to see if I can get some kind of audio tools to give me the sense that I'm in a metallic room. Yeah, okay. Well, Lady Jane says it's not slop. That's really all I'm looking for. Okay, that was helpful. Yeah. So I've got, thank you very much, Air Techie. I've got a couple other things to sort of bounce off the peanut gallery, and then we'll get into the questions here. Let me get a card. Yeah, not only getting one actor in here would be great, but 2 actual actors who could play this off of each other, that would probably make quite a difference, I would think. Thanks, Asian Hands. I wouldn't want to do it live action. I suppose Grelbr, thank you. The cost would be, astronomical. Okay, so here's what I could use some suggestions on, since you guys are the colony's development team, I guess. I need a couple things by, about 2 weeks from today, something like that. And so I'm trying to figure out what that should be. It needs to be something that is impressive. This may not be the scene to be doing it in. I mean, this is a pretty, once again, you know, in this particular case, the script that you just saw, I just was typing line by line. It wasn't that it was written in advance. It was never in the script, and if it was going to be in the script, it wouldn't have that feel. So I guess the first thing I need to do is actually write some lines instead of just improvise them line by line, which is how this whole thing basically started when I was doing the text to video. But I think I need just two things, and none of it should be beyond the skill set that I already have. So one of the things I need a finished scene, because I got to show that I can tell a story with the AI. Just in the last couple of weeks, and in fact, just a couple of days ago, a bunch of new software has come out that lets you do something where you can take basically a wide shot and get all the different angles, and that kills 90% of the problems. The faces remain constant, the background remains constant. If I got these guys in the front cab of the Rover so they're driving, the reversals all look good. That's a lot of it. So adding visual sizzle to this would help. Or maybe I do another scene. What I mean by adding visual sizzle is, for example, I could place this scene in the front cab of the Rover and have the door to the back closed, so it's Jake and Lisa sitting in the front seat, but you've got terrain in the background, and you've got the consoles and the display and that kind of thing. So that would kind of up the sizzle factor. I've given some thought to a lot of thought to what would be in the sizzle reel. The problem with doing the Rover is that it's not great at exteriors, especially of hard, solid objects. But I think as long as I don't get to too many shots of the exterior, I could make that. I could make that work. It's not a bad idea, actually. In fact, it might be an interesting idea to do it at nighttime, because if you do it at nighttime, you get like the Rover lights outside. That could be kind of interesting lighting, and then inside the cabin could be, red lights or something. I don't know. Maybe sunset, something like that. But whatever it is, it needs to be much more dramatic looking than this. It's got to have more sizzle to it. David Zapasnik again says, is it possible to do the scripted dialogue without footage and then match the footage to the dialogue, or the way they do the animation? The way for me to do this is I need to write the scene and just write it as a writer and not improvise it the way I've done with virtually all of this stuff. Write it as a writer, and then go out and shoot that scene. Yeah, for example, I could have that little piece of transaction there interrupted by the back hatch, and Will comes forward or something, and they kind of pause their conversation, and door closes, that kind of thing. Or I could do an entirely different scene. I can't tell you what scenes I had in mind for the sizzle reel for the first raise. What would need to be in place for the first pilot episode equity crowdfunding thing. The scene I wanted to do for the colonies was I wanted to have the shot of them arriving. So they're at this fairly remote planet, and this remote planet has a a city, but they're not in the city. They are at an outpost on a remote planet. Maybe 5,000 people, but they're all spread out all over the place. Very much like the Two Futures thing. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to have the initial scene would be there's a lander comes down, beat up old lander, and lands on this pad, and it's not a spaceport. It's just some Marston mattings and a bunch of mud and prefabricated housing and cranes going everywhere and all of this stuff just constantly in action. One little detail that I had that I just really liked, this is where the actual writing comes in instead of this improvising with the technology. It would be a very telling scene. If you've ever been to a remote airport, you know that how it works is there's no jetways or anything. The plane stops, they put the stairs up, and people just walk off the plane, and then they walk into the airport area. And what would be interesting, I think, would be if you saw this fairly large lander come down, and the doors open, and our family of four gets out, and is jet noise and all kinds of stuff going on, just really, really loud. They have to be wearing oxygen masks because they haven't gotten used to the thinness of the atmosphere yet. And they're just looking around, walking, and it's just all of this activity. And then they go into this prefabricated, habitat structure, sci-fi structure kind of thing. And they go in there, and the family of four and maybe three other people get off. So 7 people coming in. And then when they go inside the terminal, there's like 50 people waiting to go. That's a subtle clue. But if 5 or 6 or 7 are arriving and 50 or 60 are leaving, the look you could have on their faces to see how many people are getting the hell off of this place is an interesting introduction to the overall vibe. And the reason that there's so many people leaving, this is a kind of a key part of this story, is that when they get to this planet, they are coming at the absolute worst time. It's got a 2 or 3 year eccentric orbit, and it's just past the last of the tolerable weather, and this planet is heading out for a 20-month winter, and it's just going to get colder and colder and colder and colder and colder. And so anybody who's going to bail off of this planet is going to bail now, because this is when things are going to start getting tough again. And these are the people that either have been there a long time, but a lot of it, I want them to look like people who've just been. I want people to look guilty and look like they've been beaten by the planet, that they came out here to give it a try and they weren't strong enough, and they look tired and sad and beaten, and that puts a little damper on the new folks coming in, which got me thinking about something else too, and that this planet that you saw the party scene we did in Two Futures. I called it Founders Day, but what would really be better would be the kids call that day Happy Happy, and it's at a very precise instant. So in other words, the actual celebration doesn't necessarily occur at midnight. The actual celebration might occur at 3 in the afternoon one year, and it might occur at 1:45 in the morning the next year. But Happy Happy is kind of the short form for Aphelion Day, and this is the day where the planet is at its furthest point from the sun. So it's kind of a winter solstice celebration where this is as low as the sun's going to get. This is as cold as it's going to get. And on Aphelion Day, everybody comes to this big center, and they wait, and when it's getting to be time, there's like a big display, and you can see the planet thing, and there's just real light resolution, and here's like the center of the planet, and here's a little tick mark, and it's like and then it's 3, 2, 1, and that's it. That's as far away from the sun as the planet gets, and everybody cheers because now they're heading back into the warmth again. Just seemed like good world building. And these guys are, our family is getting there just as it's heading out. So it creates some interesting backstory. There are people who are bailing out, and at the same time, there's a lot of secondhand stuff available because people who are going home. There's not a whole lot of flights in and out of this place. This is like, last helicopter out of Saigon for a while, and then I wanted them to have this interaction with the guy who's he's essentially the mayor of this outpost that they're in. I got to figure out a name for this little town that they decide to settle in. I actually would kind of like I kind of like Nick Searcy to do it. I'd like this guy to be like, he's the mayor, he's kind of the sheriff, he's the welcoming committee. This is a kind of a remote outpost town, and he plays with them a little bit, but he also kind of takes a liking to him. For example, when they come, they're kind of like checking in. When they come to check in, there's like a sign. There's like a take a number, and it says serving 42, and they're holding something like this, and the place is completely empty, and he's working at a desk, and it's just a test to see how long they're going to wait before they say anything. He hands them as he's checking them in. He's hands them. He says, "Before these are the rules and regulations of the colonies of this particular outpost, and we're going to expect you to know these by heart, and we'll quiz you on it in 2 weeks." And it's this fairly thick, dog-eared, kind of smeared book of regulations, and he hands it to Lisa, and Jake is not happy because he's trying to get away from regulations, and while Jake is talking with this guy, Lisa opens it up and she turns to the first page, and it says book of regulations for point whatever that we name this place, and below that in fairly big letters are number 1, don't hurt anybody, number 2, don't take their stuff, number 3, do what you promised to do. And then you go to the next page and it's blank, and the entire book is blank. That's it, those 3 rules. And so that's kind of a gag this guy is kind of playing. In the course of that conversation, I wanted some kind of line about carrying firearms, because Jake asks about that. He says, "What's your position on firearms?" Because back on Earth, he needs a firearm to go to this factory thing, and he has to get permission to get one. And they give him, like 5 rounds in a magazine, which he says is just going to piss people off if I need it. But in any event, he goes there and says, "What's your position on firearms?" And the mayor says, mandatory for males over 18, recommended for males over 12, and recommended for females of all ages, but mandatory for males over 18, which got a nice ring to it. So one of the big plot points here is this is the guy who they talked to go pick up their rover. So they bought the rover on Earth, and it's waiting for them here. They know that that they're going to have to live out of the rover for a couple months before they can afford to get their own habitat, and some of them will be staying in like the local hotel or something. But they got this rover, and they bought it sight unseen, based on this, ad. And so this guy handles all of the legal transactions at the colony. So after he's done, talking with them and so on, he says, okay, so your vehicle is waiting in section, D18 or something like that. And Jake says, is that in a hangar? He says, no. They certainly didn't pay for a hangar. It's just go outside, make the first left at Mud Corner, and it's about 200 yards down on your left-hand side in there. So they go outside, and they hey Troy, they can see it in the distance, and actually they don't. It's like behind a building, so they kind of turn a corner, and there it is. And we've already seen the rover in pictures that they have, and when they get there, the thing is just trashed. It's missing a wheel. It's a 6-wheel rover. It's missing a wheel. It's certainly a lot more beat up on the outside than they thought. And when Lisa and Claire go to open the inside of it, they open the hatch, and they walk in, and they just come storming out, almost like they're about to vomit. Somebody had left some food in there. The thing is just a complete. They thought they were getting an 8 used, but what it really is just a 2. There's an entire wheel missing, and this makes Jake very unhappy, and he goes storming back in there and basically says, what's going on here? And the guy says, hey, this is the condition that it arrived in. That's my responsibility. There's been no deterioration of the vehicle while it's been kept here. Everything else is between you and the owner. And Jake says, well, we paid blah, blah, blah for this, and we were expecting this, and this, and we got this garbage, and then the boss, says, what do you want to do about it? And he says, well, I want some of my money back or something, or I'll sue this guy or something. He says, we don't have the records here. We don't know where the guy is. I suspect he's off-world. So if you want to get back on the outgoing shuttle, go back to Earth and file a lawsuit, then you could probably do it that way. But as far as we're concerned, there's nothing that we can do. So he's just boned. And now he has to spend a lot of money that he didn't plan on spending to get this thing fixed up, cleaned up. It's not a good start. So it's going to be one of these things where the guy comes off kind of gruff at first, but they kind of take a liking to each other, but not immediately. So he thinks he's walking into this thing, and it turns out that virtually all of the money that he had to start his business, a significant amount of it, has to go into this repairing this thing. And I could use some advice on this, but if it's a 6-wheel rover and it's the middle wheel on the left side missing, you probably could drive it. And that's why he says we have to replace this number, should really be the number 3 wheel or whatever, because it's just a catastrophe waiting to happen. You got a 5-wheel rover, and Lisa is being frontier wife, and she's the interior just smells like ham sandwich has been left out in the sun for a week, and she just goes in there and says we're gonna need work gloves, ammonia, and some time. So there's that. And Roadrunner says a missing wheel would put a lot of stress on the chassis. Exactly. And the rover is essentially useless to him. The reason he got the rover is because his job is to go sell water stations to individual colonists. They have to ship in their own water. Jake's entire business plan is we're going to go out there, we're going to buy or rent some drilling equipment. I have the skills necessary to do that, and the pumping. I know all this stuff, and we're going to go out there and we're going to visit all these individual people. We're going to tell them, instead of having to ship your water in, over time this will not only pay for itself, but it'll be a lot more convenient, and you could even sell water back into the city. He's just got this whole thing worked out. But now he's got a rover that he can't take very far or over rough terrain, but he kind of has to because they don't have the money to do much else. So, it just sets up some interesting situations. And because everybody is leaving, and they've got this unexpected expense real early, they, instead of getting the rover that they wanted, they have to fork out, $40,000 for this thing in addition, so they don't get the nice suits. They have to go buy secondhand suits. And this puts some stress on the situation and adds some conflict to the deal. So that's the scene I wanted to have in the trailer for the colonist timeline. I need 4 others, and I got a pretty good idea of the 4 others, but that's the one I wanted to do. Now, it's ambitious, but to be honest with you, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do it. One of the other things I have to worry about is come on. Oh, I have to hire somebody who knows a Blender pretty well, because the exteriors of the rover and things. I had a guy make me a rover 4 or 5 years ago. It's great. Custom made rover. It's fantastic. I mean, I really designed it, and this guy just built the model for me. It's fantastic. In order to get consistent shots of that, I probably need to do that in Blender. Because vehicles, AI does not do well. It really doesn't do well with vehicles. Roadrunner says it'd be a 20-minute sizzle reel. Somebody said, what are the other ones? I'll give them to you much, much faster. So that's the Pioneer story. The founders, there's 5 timelines. The Pioneers, the founders, the Navy, the merchants, and the explorers. So and for the crowdsourcing, I need 4 or 5 minutes of each of these to show people this is what we got. So this would be the way to do the Pioneers. The founders is back on Earth, and they're in very, very luxurious space planes, and they're all traveling to the house of one of these guys who lives in one of the atolls off by Kwajalein, and he's got his own island, and it's beautiful, And one of the key things I need to show there is that the Earth is just fine. Of all the tropes that are out there, I hate the dying Earth the most. Marisha says, does it have to be scenes, or can it be a trailer? It could be a trailer, but scenes are much more effective at selling what it is we need to do. So they're all meeting at this guy's house. Actually, that's what I really wanted Nick Searcy for. I'll probably find somebody a little nastier for this guy. The guy at the colony just kind of needs to be like an Al Swearingen kind of guy. So the founders thing is, you see these guys arriving from all sorts of different places, and it's a really nice island. The guy who owns it is the 3rd richest guy in the world. He's an old miner who space asteroid miner, who found the equivalent of Psyche. He found pretty much a solid metal asteroid, but he did it over the course of 25 years. While everybody else was going where the obvious stuff was, he was looking into orbits and trying to backtrack this thing and looking above the plane of the ecliptic, and he was just looking for he was methodically looking for where this thing might be. And so after 25 years of absolutely hard work and complete and utter loneliness, he strikes it rich, and now he's third richest guy in the world. So all these other people all come together to the island, and they go to this place, and they make triple sure that the place is completely sealed in terms of emissions. There's no way for people to be listening in on them. They're scanning for listening devices. They're not connected to the internet. So it's a private briefing, and in this private briefing, they're basically saying that they sent a probe, that a consortium of these companies sent a probe to this star system that's towards the outer edge of the colony ring. This is 18 light years out or something like that. And they said, here's our report for what our probe returned. And it turns out that the planet that they thought was going to be habitable, blue planet, and so on, turns out it's like a sub Neptune. It's a small gas giant, and it's all essentially useless. More of the same stuff. Nothing to write home about, right? It's a fairly long way out of there, but it's it was really disappointing. They were really hoping for better, and so they run this, and everybody looks at it, and the guy says, "So this is what's going out tomorrow." It's not even going to be a news story, really, but an interstellar. A first interstellar mission is a pretty big deal. But this thing's going to come back as kind of an appointment, and they're going to just cover some of the other planets just very, very briefly. And then that presentation ends, and the guy says, "That's what's going out tomorrow morning. Now let's show you what we really found." And then you're going to see all of these images of this water world, which is going to be Aurora, and that's the jewel. It is the most utopian find so far. There are other somewhat Earth-like planets, but this is just beyond imagination. It's got very little axial tilt. It's a relatively small planet. There's a little too much carbon dioxide in the air, but it is the jewel. And the only way that they could get people to not be watching them was to be the first people to send a probe there, because if somebody else sends a probe there, then the jig is up. I mean, you've got space telescopes by then and pretty advanced imagery. So they send a probe there, and they make an announcement that, just really kind of disappointing, but it just didn't work out. Turns out this is it. And basically they look at each other and they're saying, this is where we're gonna need to make our stand. This is where we're gonna have to set it up. So it's basically the gateway to the actual colonies. So that's the founder's short story. The exploration short story is the surveying ship is in orbit, and I'll just do the first contact with the with what the gas, with what those floaty creatures will look like. The things I did of the aliens a month or two ago, where they all look kind of like amoebas and Portuguese man o' wars. It's a little tropey. It's a little bit done. I'm going to go back to my original vision for this, which was like, enormously tall, very diaphanous creatures that just kind of evolved into this sort of jellyfish thing, and I'm just going to take it back there. But that's basically just going to be showing the ship in orbit in this new system, and that'll be the exploration thing. The merchant trader thing is going to be showing off the crew. I read the description for that last week or a week before, and they're going to be, their sequence is going to be aligning for the quantum gates. So they're just a little ragtag group of guys, and they're, you pay by volume, and so they've, there's a I'm going to call it a dice line, a probability line, and so that'll show you how the quantum displacement stuff works, which will be just really, really cool. And then finally, for the Navy, I'm going to have what was formerly right at this time, and I got to be careful about how I do this, but right at this time when we pick up the story is when the United States of America, Mexico, and Canada become NACAD, North American Central Administrative District. And there's lots of commercials. I'm not going to pound people over the nose with it, but there's going to be, in the background, subtly in terminals and stuff, there's going to be a lot of propaganda about how great this is. That North American Union, North American Central Administrative District, and you'll see like the American flag, the Mexican flag, Canadian flag, and they'll kind of blend together, and it'll be the new flag, and you'll hear them saying, it's not like these countries are going away, it's just, this is much more, it's just going to sell this whole kind of loss of sovereignty the same way they sell the United Nations. And so that pisses off a lot of patriots, and Mexican Maria, says Kirk Bambuzuka. But what this does for me is it means I don't have to fire on the American flag, which I really didn't want to do. And it also sets up some interesting, like the Somali flag, exactly, like the flag of Minnesota. I can't believe that actually happened. That simply cannot believe that happened. But for the Navy sequence, I'm going to have a guy who's a lieutenant on I don't want to call it a revenue cutter. It's more of a naval patrol boat. It's a small ship. It's maybe a frigate. A corvette probably is a better term for it. And for the Navy thing, they're in some other solar system. It's not the Sol system, but they're approaching an asteroid, and they're still quite a way out, but they're getting to the point where they can start resolving the individual heat signatures, and you're just seeing little blurry things, right? They're getting closer, and it turns out that this asteroid, in fact, this entire area of the belt, is owned by an American mining corporation, and these people, these little blips, are Chinese ships that are just poaching the stuff. They're just in there taking it. That's what they do right now around the world. They just put their fishing fleets in everybody's territorial waters, and so this is just the former U.S. Navy, now the NACAD Department of Compliance, approaching this thing, and there are these 5 or 6 Chinese mining ships, little ones, surrounding this asteroid, and they're getting closer, and and the captain says, that's unusual. They certainly know we're here by now. I like that. Our Air Techie Compliance Force, Comp 4. Yeah, it's great. That's actually really great. I'll write that down. Thank you for that. Comp 4. Yeah, Compliance Force. Compliance and problematic are the 2 words that make me ill. 1 second. So this is basically takes place in the bridge or Combat Information Center of a older, very small American revenue cutter, and as they get closer and closer to these ships, they see a heat signature coming from behind the asteroid, and it's not a huge signature. But the next thing they know, they get hit by a crazy powerful laser. They are a long, long way out of what they would have thought, ranges. They just get fired on, and they immediately, because it's peacetime, and so it's kind of the hero's not the captain. The main character we're following are 2 of the more junior officers, and so this guy just goes sailing in, expecting to turn on his lights essentially and watch them scatter, but they don't scatter. This warship comes out from behind the planet. It's big, and they fire this laser, and then they start, they just get hit. They just get caught with their pants down. We're one big happy fleet, and so they take this big hit, and then they immediately start, going into combat mode, and they're still out of range of their railguns, and this thing has got this incredibly long range laser, and they're working out their countermeasures and stuff, and then they get hit again, and they're saying there is no way that this thing can cycle that fast, and what they find is that the vast bulk of this ship, of this Chinese warship, is essentially, it's a giant water sphere, and it's a big old heat sink, and they're just cycling this laser. The problem would be that you'd have to find a way to dump the energy through radiation, and radiation in space is very slow, very hard. It's not like the air convection or water convection takes the heat away. A thermos maintains heat because it's a vacuum, and the fact that they're able to just keep firing means that they're storing their heat into this big heavy heat sink, and no one had thought of that before. And so they just basically hightail it out of there, and it's kind of the same cue as for Ernest Evans, who was the captain of USS Johnston. He, in the first days of the war, I think he was on a cruiser. He was a relatively junior officer on a cruiser. Got ambushed by the Japanese in the Battle of Java Sea. We took a bunch of lost, like, cruisers and destroyers, and I don't think the Japanese lost anything. And the entire Allied Navy just goes running for the hills from this Japanese force. And Ernest Evans, real Ernest Evans, was sitting there saying, "I'm never running from the enemy again. I'm never going to run it from the enemy again." So that would be some space combat, and the beginning of a conflict where China actually starts the shooting war. They start taking their all of their dice lines go offline, and they basically just say, "Screw you guys," and it shows us some at least some basics, if one-sided, of early space combat and the good guys taking a licking, because every war that I've ever seen that was won by the side that got hit first and had their nose bloodied. It's the best thing that can happen to you. So anyway, that's that. Airtechie says it sounds plausible, but you really need to work out the details if you want to keep the hard sci-fi feel. Well, I plan to work out the details to the Jewel, and that goes for all the countermeasures and detection ranges and all that stuff. So anyway, that's it. So I have to figure out. I don't need that by middle of January, obviously. I need two things by the middle of January. I need something that's really visually striking, and I need to be able to tell a story, a scene, and not. I don't think there's any way for me to do the big landing scenes, so I don't know. I don't want to get into the Blender stuff now. Oh my gosh. Well, this is a record. I'm trying to get the name. Hephaestusify. Hephaestosify comes in with a $200 DKK donation, super chat, and just a hey and a wink and thank you very much. Grubler says, I know I got your name wrong, that ammonia has higher heat capacity than water. Yeah, they can get it from Jupiter. We'll make it work. We'll make it work. I've spent a lot of time on that. Thank you very much for that that super chat. That's very, very kind. So anyway, enough about that. I have looked at them, Marusha. I don't know if I mean they're incredibly well thought out. I'm inclined to want to structure this with ChatGPT only because of how the so-called brain works. But I will look at them again. Come on. Why am I not? It's Danish kroner, about 37 bucks. I'll take it. Thank you very much. What's going on here? Oh, there we go. Finally. I got no mouse. What's happening? It's like the whole computer is, oh, this isn't good. Hang on. I have to shut some programs down. It's not the battery, it's the desktop. I am a little concerned about this thing locking up here. I got a lot of stuff on. The stream's still going? Yes, seems to be. But I've got no. Okay, hang on. Let me try this. Yes. Let me close some programs. Boy, something's hanging badly here. Hang on. Trying to shut down some programs, see if that's boy, it's, and I rebooted this thing not too long ago. Hang on. Yeah, Chinese cyber attack. Something has really locked us up here. Really. What am I trying to do? Okay, hold on. All I really want to do is just open up a browser tab for, that's going to be new tab. Hang on. If this won't do it, nothing will. It's my last chance here. Something's really locked this up. I'm going to try to switch SCE to aux. Let's see if that did anything. Should have saved the mission. This is really alarming. Well, I'm trying to think what I can do about this. I do not want to end either one of these streams. I can't open any new tab, so I can't get to the, wait a minute. Here's what I can do. I can't open any new tabs so that I can get to the questions, but I can get to the questions on my phone. Hopefully. And then I'll, no, I don't want to, have I been this off-centered the whole time on Twitch? It's strange. Well, that's weird. Okay, looks like this will work though. I don't know how I got off-centered, but I can't fix that either. Marisha says I can skip the first question because yeah, it's really long too. Thank you. All right, well, let's see. We got a Braden Higby, we got a Capital G Geek, we got a Marisha Dark, Eric Blake, Roadrunner. I think that's it. Boy, the second one is really long too. It's good. Okay, Marisha, the second one is 7 numbered paragraphs plus other stuff, and it's about the vaccine, so I'll do the first one. I really, we have to do a little better. Yeah, let me do that. On this, these questions, because it's a little out of hand, but here we go. Bill, please take this as me seeking clarification rather than issuing criticism, even with the caveat that not all animation styles are the same. I'm generally confused on where you stand with regard to cartoons. You've said previously that you dislike stylized stuff in favor of hyperrealism, so one could be mistaken for thinking you just don't like unrealistic stuff, but that hypothesis doesn't seem to stack up with some of your other interests. On the other hand, you outright reject any and all anime as a monolith for its big eyes and kooky mannerisms. And at the same time, you said you like Disney, which is the original inspiration for all anime, precisely for those qualities. You said you like Johnny Quest as an exception for its attempt at realism, but also enjoy stuff like Ren and Stimpy and Ratfinks, which are anything but. I assume you also like Looney Tunes, Futurama, Family Guy, and Hanna-Barbera, right? Yeah, pretty much. I'm not saying you have to necessarily like anything or everything. As you said, it's a matter of aesthetic taste. I can name plenty of cartoon styles I think are trash, and many I like in spite of their style as well. I'm just confused since it seems inconsistent and feel like you're really missing out on such influential cultural touchstones that younger generations find relatable for the same reason gaming is. Can you help it make sense? Absolutely. I don't like anime. Braden Higby. Howdy from Idaho. In the colonies, have you thought about how your quantum tech could be militarized beyond FTL? Interesting question. No, I'm still working on the details of that, but I'm getting there. Kind of like how we got the bomb before nuclear power, I don't see much need for quantum bombs. We're already able to achieve excessive yields with thermonuclear weapons, but maybe there are some applications along the lines of communications that cannot be intercepted, or something else that uses your quantum effects crudely as a stepping stone to your probability engines. Also, good call on going the quantum route. Stranger Things, I think, has capstoned the relativistic world with its confused attempts at a wormhole and exotic matter. Looking forward to a new take on physics. Yes, in terms of weaponizing it, the probability stations work by taking a quantity of ionized hydrogen in a vat on Earth, and half of it goes sublight to the station, and that hydrogen is entangled with the hydrogen back home. It's injected into a extraordinarily thin magnetic diaphragm, just a couple of atoms wide, really. And you need a bunch of these stations, but basically what the probability gates do is they use powerful lasers to hit each one of the actual atoms in that diaphragm and align their quantum state vectors so that they match. And then this little tiny little sliver of hydrogen atoms bears the identical quantum times fingerprint of one that's, let's say, just for the sake of an argument, a light year away. And then error correction goes to work because the qubits want to make these two different positions, but for a few, couple tenths of a second, they're able to convince the qubits that because these two planes of hydrogen are absolutely identical, then it convinces the qubits that create reality that they are the same, and so it's not actually traveling, it's just, it's a head fake on the universe. That's the basics of it. So the quantum qubit field creates reality. Each single qubit creates a particular region of space, and the further apart these two regions become in real space, well, real space is generated by the qubits. The further apart they are, though, the more their quantum fingerprint changes. So things are very different here than they would be on the far side of the Andromeda Galaxy, but they're not so different if they're only half a light year away from each other in deep space where there's not a lot going on. There's not a lot of stuff to keep track of out there. There's not a lot of molecules out there. AirTechie says, if you ever considered how FTL would work without the gates, I have spent 25, 30 years of my life, more than that really, 50 years of my life trying to solve that problem. And once I realized that the quantum information layer creates space-time, I realized it's all, the energy is required to bend space, push through space, go faster. To make a long story short, faster than light travel under Einsteinian relativity doesn't work because you're dragging space-time with you. You're pulling the actual structure of space-time with you. And the faster you go, the more it pulls back, which is why as a ship gets faster and faster and faster, it's essentially space-time drag. And the space-time drag increases the faster you go, which is why the ship seems to gain mass. It's why time seems to slow down and so on. AirTechie says there's no range limit to quantum entanglements. True, but there is a range limit to the individual quantum fingerprint that any single cubic meter of space has. it's not just what's inside that volume, it's how does it connect to all the other volumes. And so the further away you get, the further you gap these two stations, the more different the underlying quantum substrata is. And we have technology at the time of this show that is not real. It's not really a power output thing. It's a it's error correction. So for this to work, technology has to convince those hydrogen atoms to behave in such an identical way that the quantum substrata, for a few tenths of a second, buys it. And what is kind of cool is that the Mark I gates had a range of, I don't know, say 0.3 light years, and as we get better, the range between them increases. But it's not that we're using more energy; it's that our error correction calculations get better. We get better at spinning up those quantum state vectors on the qubits, despite the fact that their quantum fingerprints become more divergent the farther apart they get. So that's where we're going with that. Capital G Geek, greeting from the swamps of Northern Virginia. Mentioned last week about how your brain automatically filters things. My last job, I got to talk about Avatar before I go. My last job had an occasional tradition about that. In the group meetings, occasionally someone would say something like, take a deep breath. Okay, now everyone has to think about breathing for the next 5 minutes. Over time, that got shortened to set breathing to manual as a final send-off and temporary annoyance. That's funny. Typically before a long weekend. Where did you get your tinnitus? Most of mine came from shooting, but I suspect not having air conditioning in the first few cars I owned explains why it's worse in my left ear. Interesting. And then there's two stories that are both political stories. So if you don't mind, I'll just answer there. I got tinnitus in two stages. When I was in college, this would be about 1979 or 80, I had a cassette deck and I had a pair of headphones. They were Koss Pro 4 AA's or AA14s. I think the AA14 was the Radio Shack amplifier. I think they were Pro 4 AA's. Enormous heavy things with gel seals. And I just listened to music with those things on, turned up to 11. And it really started to do the damage. But what really did it was about 5 or 6 years later, I got a job doing lights and lasers and videos. So I was like the visuals guy at a couple of nightclubs in Miami at Club 1235, which used to be Club Z, and then at Parallel Bar. And I was up in the DJ booth for 2-3 years, standing right in front of the speakers. And it just blew my hearing out. It was, I'd just be, I'd go home with ringing in my ears, and then after a time, the ringing just never went away. And then I did what really much is a doubly stupid thing to do. First of all, it was stupid because it was too late. And second, it was stupid because it was stupid. But I finally realized that I was hurting my hearing, so I took some, what's this stuff called? Silly putty. Took silly putty, and I made silly putty earplugs. But silly putty's not really good for that. It actually makes an excellent earplug. It's getting them out. That's the hard part. And I think like those soft things used to have like cotton in them or something, but I didn't put the cotton in. So I put the silly putty in my ears and I tried to pull it out, and and it didn't come all the way out on one ear. So then I decided to see if I could finesse it out. I was probably 25, Janie, 20, 24, 25, somewhere around there, with a Q-tip, and all that did was manage to pack it hard onto my eardrum. So then I went to a doctor, and I lied down on my side, and this doctor took an instrument and scraped the silly putty off of my eardrum, and that hurt quite a bit. That really, really, really hurt quite a bit. So it was a combination of really loud music in headphones, and then 4 or 5 years later, 5 nights, 6 nights a week, standing in front of like an entire wall of speakers. I mean, seriously, 2 feet, 3 feet behind my head, and not wearing any ear protection, which was not so smart. But yeah, and I've been going the whole night, and it hasn't even occurred to me. Now I hear it because I'm aware of it. It'll disappear in a few moments. But that's why I'm always humming something to myself. So. That's correct, Astronerd. That's basically it. Yes. And these stations have to be periodically replenished. So the way you replenish this thing, let's say there's 4 stations between point A and point B, and you want to get some supplies to the second station, let's say. So these things fire in sequence. They're separated from each other in real space by a significant difference, which is so you go from Earth to one station. Let's say that's a light year away for the sake of it. And then, I don't know, 100 miles further downstream is another gate to the next gate. And all these guys go zipping through that. So you're through this thing, and then there's another one. You're already a light year away. And anything that's going to refuel that next station has to depart the train, decelerate, and then essentially come back and drop off the supplies. So instead of going the whole way, bam, 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 it just goes bam, and then gets off the boat, and that's how you get to that. That's how you build gates as well too, and all that stuff. And there are economic considerations. These gates are tremendously expensive, and under this theory, these stations, you would want them as far apart as possible. The farther apart they are, the fewer of them you need, but the farther apart they are, the greater the error becomes because of the difference of the quantum fingerprint, and that is a financial decision. And as it turns out, it goes as an exponent. Craigie says, when's it set? I think it's set in 2270 something. Yeah, 2270. I was going to make it 2170, but I need some time for things like lost ships and colonies and all that stuff. So it's 250 years in the future instead of 250 years in the past. So then the question is, like, for example, the Chinese and certainly the Soviets didn't care so much about human life as they did about budgets. So Chernobyl didn't have a containment because it was expensive, and the graphite on the tips was not as expensive as what they should have used. So the Chinese or other nations save money by having longer distances between the stations, but the risk goes up. And for Western nations, I want the risk to be roughly that of commercial aviation. For societies that are willing to trade life for saving money, I'd like the accident rate to be approximately that of general aviation, which is a whole different animal. But again, there's still exceedingly unlikely conditions. Clement says, tonight is a good time to pray for America's wise man, Victor Davis Hanson, because he's having major surgery tomorrow for an undisclosed condition. I love Hanson. I think he's just wonderful. So good luck. Is Jordan Peterson doing any better? I know he was very, very ill for a long time, so I hope he's doing better as well. Okay, so there's a second one. Eric Blake and Roadrunner, and then we're going to sail into 2026. So Eric Blake, tonight the case of the ascending apex. So Bill, right off the bat, have you been able to enjoy the particular benefit of having Daily Wire Plus All Access membership that took effect this past Thursday, namely the exclusive early release of the first 2 episodes of Pendragon Cycle? I have not. I'll keep it vague for anyone who hasn't had the privilege, but let me just say that Jeremy Boring has at last proven himself as an artistic creator. The cinematography, the score, the acting, the dialogue, everything sang, everything worked. Nothing feels forced. A certain protagonist claiming Jesus, the great light, is strictly in service to his character in the story, not the other way around. Frankly, I should note that I made sure to look for whether Jeremy's learned the lesson you had to teach him with Arroyo about the 180-degree camera angle rule. I'd say he certainly has, at least from my line of vision, when he's directed a couple movies between the two. I will say with a firm certainty, Bill, the bar has been officially raised for conservative entertainment, high-quality Christian media like The Chosen and House of David aside, of course. There's now no excuse. This is now the standard by which any other conservative cultural project shall be held, until the premiere of The Colonies, of course. Thank you. Have you seen the 2 episodes yet, Bill? If so, what are your thoughts? No, I haven't seen them. What I've seen of it looked a little generic to me. I hold everything to the standard now of Lord of the Rings, and so I see things like details in the armor, crowd density, that sort of thing. But that's a glowing review, Eric, so I'm sure I'll get to it eventually. Last one for the night is Roadrunner. Greetings, friend Bill. I just wanted to wish you and Natasha a very happy New Year. Thank you so much. The same to all of you, for everybody out there. Do you have any plans for New Year's? Yes, Natasha and I are going out to a club, and we're going to do some dancing, 80s music. So, chance to damage my ears a little more. But we'll see. I've got my New Year's Eve tickets already. Attached to file. Stay home and do nothing. Go to bed early. It's funny. It's very funny. It's printed like a ticket. Ticketmaster ticket. That's great. Hang on. There we go. Sorry. I'm looking forward to a great Colonies year. No pressure. Same here, buddy. So that's great. So thank you for the Happy New Year's wishes, and Happy New Year to everybody else as well. Matthew Berkland says, "What do I think of Stranger Things? I haven't watched it. I heard good things about it, except for apparently this last season, especially this last episode. It's turned into once again, a gay pride parade. But I heard the first seasons were very, very good." We started watching World of Guinness. There's a lot of things that Natasha can't watch. One of them is Fawlty Towers, because she can't get through the British accent. She just can't follow it. It might as well be, in something. And that's a shame, because I watched a lot of Russian movies with her when she first got here, and I got by just on the subtitles, and I just wanted to show her Gourmet Night on Fawlty Towers, which is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. I think that is the funniest show ever made, and Gourmet Night, which is the one that starts off with them having car problems. When I first saw that, and Basil Fawlty comes out for the second time with the dinner from the restaurant, because his chef back at the hotel is drunk, and his car won't start, and he starts shaking his fist at it, and then he just snaps and he says, "Right, that's it, I warned you." He gets out of the car, runs out of car. You think he's running to the hotel or something, comes back with a branch, tree branch and starts thrashing his car. And I actually thought I was going to die. That's the hardest I've ever laughed. I laughed harder at that than I did at Sam Kinison saying you live in a desert. That was the funniest thing I ever saw. I loved Fawlty Towers. I just loved that show, and Cleese was great in it. Man, has he become a pompous, just kind of a pompous jackass. But who cares? Anybody who's contributed that much to human happiness and laughter is great. But he's been kind of I think he was kind of a dick the whole time. He left Python after 2 seasons. They did at least 1 season without him, and it just wasn't the same. But I saw some snippets from Holy Grail, and I remember seeing that movie in the theater at midnight, and I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. I was crying just in the credits. By the time they were getting out of the credits with the subtitles about a moose bit my sister once and all of that, I'd never heard or seen Monty Python before in my life. And the first experience I had with them was Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and I just love that movie. I just think it's really, really funny. Someday, lad, all this will be yours. What, the curtains? Not the curtains, lad. It's just rock solid. It's just great. As Benny says, for the record, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Sends a link. Let's have a. I can't click a link because this is all. I don't know what this is. I've never had this. I think I've just got too much stuff on the desktop unsorted. No, really, a moose bit my sister once. Okay, so last thing before we go, I'll just tell you we saw Avatar a couple nights ago. Got in the theater. It was ArcLight Theater. It was very close to us, and it got bought out. They went out of business, and it was bought by Regal. And man, movies are dying just so fast. There was hardly anybody there. I mean, we saw Avatar at 8:30 on a probably Christmas Eve, I think it was, and there were, maybe 10 people in this theater. But I will say this: they've completely refurbished this theater, and not only was it the 3D with Dolby Stereo, but these are reclining seats, lots of room. They really made that movie-going experience much, much better. It made me want to go back again. So there's that. So we put on the 3D glasses, and there were some trailers that needed 3D glasses, and I'm looking at the trailers and I'm thinking either these glasses are broken or my eyes are broken. Anyway, those are the trailers. And then the lights go out and Avatar comes on, and it's in 3D. It's just spectacular. It's absolutely spectacular. It's mind-boggling. I heard the best analysis of the Avatar movies I've ever heard in my life just earlier today. And this guy was talking about what a lot of people have talked about, Critical Drinker talked about, a lot of people do. He said these are Avatars 1 and 2 are the number 1 and number 3 most highest grossing films ever. And nobody talks about them. And nobody thinks about them when they're not there. And this is really true. When you talk about like superheroes or heroes, you think of, there's Ripley, or there's Sarah Connor, or there's, Iron Man, no one ever thinks of Jake Sully, because Jake Sully is not a character. No one, name 3 characters from Avatar that aren't us, Jake Sully and Notiri. They're not movies. They're extraordinarily anti-human, anti-capitalist, anti-American. By the way, one thing I did notice in this is that there is not a black person in this movie. There may be one, but honestly, there is not a black person in this movie. And as I was walking out to the car with Natasha, I said, do you know why there were no black people in this movie, or Asian people for that matter? No, because black people and Asian people can't be evil. It's all white males. You've never seen a more Caucasian film in your life, not since the 60s. And, all of that simplistic stuff. It's so heavy and so stupid. They're hunting the whales again so that they can get their brain juice, which makes immortality. They can upload their brains into avatars, but we got to kill all of these whales. And so all of humanity has 18th, 19th century moral values. We just go out and kill whales just to do that. We just burn trees down. We don't give a damn about anybody else. Cameron's view of America and capitalism is the period between 1880 and 1920, or 1840 and 1920. It's just so hokey, and the characters are there. They're not characters. The stories are not stories. You have the same villain 3 times, but this guy who did this thing that I saw today was really good, and he went through all of the reasons why none of these movies are worth a damn story-wise, and why nobody talks about them. But he ultimately ended up by, which I think is absolutely correct, he ultimately said they're not movies, they're amusement park rides. They're 3 hours in Disneyland. Nobody talks about whether or not the characters in It's a Small World, make sense. You go for the experience. You don't talk about what happened. No one's doing fan fiction about what happens inside the Haunted Mansion, because the Haunted Mansion isn't about a narrative. The Haunted Mansion is what, 7 minutes, 8 minutes of immersion. I loved the Haunted Mansion. By far my favorite ride, and even to this day. But when I was really in my Disney period, when I was probably 17, 18, 19, we lived in Miami, so we could get to Orlando in a 5-6 hour drive. We used to go, in high school, we used to go to Disney World, I don't know, every 4 or 5 months or something for a while there. But nobody comments on the characters in the Haunted Mansion, because the Haunted Mansion is not about characters, not about narrative, it's not about any of that stuff. It's about the experience. And what this guy basically said was that the Avatar movies are a 3-hour amusement park ride. And he's right. He said that there's only one character in these Avatar movies, and the character is Pandora. And he's right about that too. It is more world building and more visual spectacle than. He also argued that this planet is the most well-developed planet in science fiction history, and I think that's true, and I'll include Dune in that. But it's because it is. It's not all honey. For example, this critic pointed out that when you feel sad in Avatar, you don't feel bad because something bad happened to the characters, because there are no characters. You don't care about the characters. What Cameron does in Avatar is he substitutes character sympathy and loss, and he just puts in a cheap substitute, which is animal sympathy. When they kill an animal, you feel bad. When they kill the whales, you feel bad. You feel sad. Nobody likes to see cruelty animals or these animals killed, So when he wants you to feel sad, it's not you're going to feel sad because of Jake frickin' Sully. You're going to feel sad because, oh, look, they just harpooned a whale. That's led me to a couple of other observations that I was sharing with Natasha coming out of there. She thought it was beautiful too. It's amazing. It's amazing. It is a technological masterpiece, and it seemed to me an even bigger improvement than 2 was over 1. But in any event, the story is so heavy-handed and so awful that I found myself rooting for the humans pretty much every time. Every Avatar movie I've gone to, all 3 of those times I was rooting for the humans, who he kills mercilessly. And one of the, it's probably Natiri or somebody says, kill all the sky people, kill them all, kill every last one of them. It's like, okay. So, what do you say about it? It's so offensive in terms of its narrative that it takes me out of the movie, but for 3 hours, especially in 3D, and the 3D is by far the best I've ever seen. Really, by far, I wasn't aware I was watching 3D until the movie was over. But it's hard to, here's a guy who's a billionaire who's made more money on his movies than anybody in history, and he's talking about how bad capitalism is, and he uses his anti-capitalism rants to fund his private submarine to go down to the depths of the Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench. Two things I'll say about that. Number one, it's his money. He can do whatever he wants with it. He didn't take it by coercion. People voluntarily gave him the money and got something in exchange for it. And secondly, going down to the depths of the Challenger Deep in the Marianas Trench takes absolute balls of steel. That is genuine, absolute genuine heroic courage. That's the most dangerous place on earth by orders of magnitude, and I give him credit for that. But he'll come back up from his dives, and he'll go down to the Amazon, and he'll live with the Amazonian people for a week. But he's still wearing cotton underwear and t-shirts. He's not clothing himself in leaves, and I don't know what drives that level of hypocrisy, but it is an intense hatred for America. It's an intense hatred for humanity. We're just irredeemably evil. Now, some of the thing that this guy was arguing was that he's simplifying things even more because he doesn't even want you thinking about the story. It's why there's so little story there. It gets in the way of you going ooh and ah at Pandora, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. So, I went not because I wanted to see the movie. George has got this right. Worse, he laments when the tribes people get cotton underwear. Yeah, because they're not pure savages anymore. And cotton underwear is much more comfortable to wear. And there's a whole entire species of liberals out there who look at primitive people wearing T-shirts and gym shorts and completely lamenting this because they treat primitive people like museum exhibits. And it also feeds the liberal white man savior thing. I think I have it still on the desktop. Hang on a second. Oh, I can't get to my desktop because everything is frozen. It's I think it's a photograph of like a white woman on like a what do they call those elevated chairs? When they carry you by the chairs. It's this white woman, and surrounding her are like maybe 100 black people, like African natives, and they're all kind of like bowing down to her. And the caption was, "This is what liberals think." Sit down, chair. Thank you very much, John. This is what liberals think of themselves. Thank God the world has liberals to save indigenous people from liberals, or from conservatives, really. And this is why the whole Avatar thing is such a joke. It's the white savior, right? I mean, this guy, Jake Sully, is a cripple. He can't walk. He gets an Avatar body, and then immediately becomes, well, not immediately. He takes several weeks, but he becomes a master a rider of these flying dragon things, and then he alone, among all of the Na'vi over the course of 300 years or whatever, is able to tame the great red flying dragon. And the white man with no experience, who just dips his toe in the culture, suddenly becomes the leader of the noble savages, and saves them from people like himself. It is the greatest testimony to white supremacy that there could possibly be. This entire planet cannot defeat white people unless a white person shows them how. And it's just so awful. Yes, Marusha, I've seen videos of white people kneeling, apologizing to black people, licking their boots, because I've seen it. It's psychopathic. It's just psychopathic. And I think those days are over. It's been an amazing year, 2025. And one of the things that I've seen is just an astonishing amount of, which I think is fully justified, frankly, astonishing amount of white guilt just plain gone. It's you put everything on the race card, and that card is no longer being accepted, and I just think it's long overdue, and some people can be in for some rude surprises when it turns out that that this sense of guilt for things that people didn't do isn't going to last forever. So, yeah. But by the time, in all three of the movies, by the time we get to the end of the movie, I'm rooting for the humans. And I am going to say things like you cannot shoot a woman with arms this thick cannot shoot an arrow powerful enough to go through a bulletproof canopy on a modern fighter jet or helicopter. And in Avatar, they've got these guys in the water with spears, and they're poking the canopies of these underwater. Almost said underwater submarines, but that's redundant. But they're just poking holes in it, because whatever. I can't tell you. I'm not telling you to go see it. Certainly not telling you to go see it. But I'm also saying it is a visual banquet. It's just astonishing. Yeah, I agree with you, Craigie. I think there's been a lot of people reacting to it. I think the West has been beaten up enough for a lot of us. They're mentioning that it's going to rain here in California, and it is going to rain hard for the next 4 days. Oh, one last thing about that. I saw a picture a week ago, photograph, maybe 10 days ago, of Death Valley. And Death Valley was under 8 inches of water. Clear, crystal clear water, and it went to the horizon. Death Valley. Turns out that was a lake, and apparently there hasn't been water in this lake in 10,000 years. But California's gotten more water this year than we usually get in 5 or 6 years. I think Lake Mead is coming back. Lake Mead had gotten to a level that was so low that it was starting to look like there's not going to be enough water to power the generators on Hoover Dam, but it's apparently recovering, and we sure do need it. And Californians have spent billions of dollars, and some of them are mine, to build just big concrete cubes in the ground to store all of the water that goes rushing out to sea every year. We spent the money on it, billions. And they haven't built it because California is a kleptocracy, and then you get guys like this D-bag or whatever his name is saying he's going to vote for Newsom because Newsom is hotter. Clavicle or Clavia, whatever. Okay. Crikey says, "Wow, it's 86 degrees Fahrenheit here in sunny Australia." Yes, it's funny how that works down there. David says that there's big money in publicly undermining capitalism. There is, and almost all of the money that's designed to undermine belief in capitalism is coming from BlackRock. I have still not completely processed what the behind-the-scenes game is there, but when you are the most rapacious, capitalistic, and wealthiest company in the world, and you're spending all your money to destroy belief in capitalism, something funny's going on. So anyway, there's that. All right, so I am going to wrap this up. This will be our last show for 2025. I've always liked odd number years. I just like the feel of them, but I've always done better in even number years, so we'll see. We have had a fun year. I talked about a lot of stuff, but I have I do, Coach. I can't use my desktop. I'm gonna have to force quit out of here. But 2025 is going to be one of the most significant years of my life for one reason and one reason only, and that is because on September 8th, I got struck by lightning about how I feel about money. My attitude about money, raising money, has completely inverted, and it's the most important thing that's happened to me since I got married. So that alone was a good deal. I cannot wait to get out there and start collecting checks and shaking hands, big checks. So anyway, Happy New Year to everybody, and I hope you had a relatively good 25. It started strong and certainly is not as bad as it was last year. And I think 26 is going to be a real good year too. So we're glad that you've been with us this whole time. As you know, the show's made possible by the members of BillWhittle.com who've been with us forever. And we're very, very grateful to them and to all of you and to all of the feedback and all the rest of that stuff and bill time and, and all these, oh, look, a squirrel and all these other distractions. But I am like a laser beam now. So that's good news. So we will see you a week from today. Thursday night is New Year's night, and I mentioned I might do a Friday. I might do a Friday Stratosphere Lounge. It depends on how I feel, to be honest with you. Let's just say it's not going to happen, but if it turns out I'm feeling okay, I'll send up a flare on Facebook. But for the time being, we'll just plan on being back next Monday, and then we're back on our regular schedule. So thanks all of you. I'm going to have to force quit these programs here, and take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next year. Okay? Thanks. Now let's see if we can close these things out here.